without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, from Brooklyn. Hey, guess any.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
What's up, everybody? It's the Thursday edition of Coast to Coast. I am your host, Pags, and I've got Bo with me next to me. McLovin will be in shortly, whenever he gets done playing around, whatever he's doing. Yeah, he's always playing games on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so we're not sure what he's doing. But welcome to the show. What's going on, Bo?
Good morning, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I might as well start off. Start off with the bad news. If you took my picks yesterday, you lost. And that brings me down to 19-11. Which you gotta take the wins when you can. You got to take the losses also. You got to admit to them. The Clippers. I had the Clippers minus 10.5. They only won by 6. And then Boston minus 9.5. They only won by 7 in overtime. So if you took them on money line, which sometimes is the better thing to do. However, both of them were very high lines. I think it was like a minus 600 and a minus 700.
Oh wow, that is a high line.
Yeah, those are high lines. So like when you get into the 10-point range, I got to imagine that the money lines are going to be something fierce. So I don't even check money lines, but we lost those two. So and no picks today. So unfortunately, I don't get to have you give your money away for any other thing as of right now.
No rebound picks.
But some stuff happened last night, while we left our show. The moment we left our show, the word came out. Mr. Belichick will no longer be a member of the New England Patriots. And I'm trying to pull up. I want to pull up the stuff here. Let's get right to the news here. They're parting ways after 24 seasons. It says that a mutual parting of the ways. So I have to imagine it was mutual because the moment that Vrabel was said, "Hey, look at me over here," that Kraft said, "You know what? Instead of going to get that massage, I think it's time to have a conversation with Bill." And he showed Bill the door, and Bill says, "You know what? I'll take it." And so goes the best GM in the Patriots history, that dog. That dog picked a great draft in 2020. So, it's probably the best draft that they had.
Yeah. So I think with him out and Saban retiring, then I think they go do their own podcast, the Curmudgeon Corner, and just angry old guys ranting about football. I think it'd be a fun listen.
When I think about Nick Saban retiring, and I think about the same situation going on with, Pete Carroll, which was a surprise up there.
That one was.
Any chance Nick goes up there?
No way.
No,
think? I mean, because you got to remember, he's what, 71, 72, something like that.
Well, that's what made me think that they didn't let him go. They escalated him. Pete Carroll.
No. I mean, Saban. Saban's that same age.
Well, I understand that. That's what made me think that there is a possibility that they're going to combine their strengths. Wonder Twin powers activate to do this team. So
yeah, I don't think so. I think if they were going to go from the college ranks, obviously they want to swing at Harbaugh, right? But if they're going to do it from inside the NFL, you have to target Dan Quinn because they worked together before. If Pete Carroll's still in that front office, you need someone that they have decent chemistry with. So I don't see him going after Saban. I think Saban out and out retires. Excuse me. I can't imagine Saban's going anywhere else because he announced his retirement. It's not like he was forced out, right?
Well, I mean, he still had lots of years on his contract, so
that's what I mean.
I have to imagine it. Do you feel like he retired because he lost? Yeah, because he lost to Michigan.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that ties the longest span where he hasn't won, right? Because I think he had 3 years before he won his first one there, and then so yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's because of the loss. I think it has more to do with the changing landscape of how college football works, right? I think the transfer portal and the NIL and all of that and recruiting isn't really the same anymore. I think it's one of those where he took a step back and was just like, maybe I don't love this anymore, right? I mean, that retirement kind of felt that way. Now, had he done it after winning one more ring, he'd be like, you know what? I've done all the things. But even in a loss, I think some of it is, because he's come out and talked about not liking where it's heading, tons of times. So really ever since the transfer portal, words are hard, came out, stuff like that. He's had kind of that view of, I don't like where this is headed. And, I think after a while that can weigh heavy on you if you have to go do recruiting and then you can have someone in your building and they're just like, I'm not going to start them out.
Gotcha. I'm surprised. I mean, I guess, when you're a coach for that long, you fade off into the sunset. If you're just not interested in coaching or anything like that, I got to imagine that, I think of Joe Paterno.
Okay.
And I know how Joe Paterno's ended his career, so it makes things a lot difficult because of everything that swirled around him as he was out. But
Sure.
You kind of knew that he would never retire because the moment he retired, he'd be dead. And
Yes,
there really that was about a dead-on statement because he retired. Literally, like 6 weeks later, I felt like he was gone.
It seemed really fast, but yeah, I mean, he was that guy that, he was football. Like that's what he was. Right. I don't know that Saban quite falls into that same thing, but and if it was just he got to coach and didn't have to deal with all the rest of the stuff, he'd probably keep doing it because I don't think you necessarily lose the love of coaching, right? You probably just lose the interest in everything else that goes around it. Because even guys that like players, right? A lot of those guys will retire when they still have a couple years left, and it's not because they couldn't physically do it or they didn't love game day or they're the other players and any of that. They're just like, I'm tired of the grind that goes into every day, right? So I think that probably is part of it, is all of the grind and then all the change that's happening. And, again, he's 71, 72, something like that. Like at some point you knew he was going to be done. I thought he was going to hang out another, 3 years or so, but I figured 75, he was probably going to hang it up. But at the end of the day, all these guys are getting older.
Yeah. And ultimately, I also got to imagine that going on the trail to get to recruiting trail is got to be able to take a toll on your body when you're that old. You know what I mean? It's like, I know what it's like living on the road. I have all of that stuff. It's a matter of, okay, let's do this. Let's kind of make this all occur. But it takes, you have to be bred for that. Like you have to be used to being out on the road. And as you get older, I got to imagine that wears on you some. Even traveling first class. You know what I mean? And getting to eat dinner wherever you feel like and whatever you're doing and such like that makes it a lot, uh, easier.
Sure.
The comforts make things easier, but it's
Sure, but
still
you're still in an
hard.
airport all the time. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, no, I agree with you there. Like that, it's got to be grading, and it's got to be frustrating knowing that in the new landscape, a commit isn't really
Right.
right. Like it's so easy for a commit to uncommit now. Like it used to be, you'd commit, and that was kind of it, right? Like you were going wherever you said you were going to go, and now a commit is like it's like, yeah, I mean, I'll entertain it, right? Unless another school has some more NIL money, or I'm going to be second on the depth chart and I don't really want to do that. Then I'm like, I'll just uncommit and go somewhere else. Admittedly, there's some things that has to change about how that works. But yeah, I mean, that probably is one of the more frustrating things if you are out on the trail going through all of, those airports to find commits, and then you don't really know even after the year starts if they're going to be around. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's weird. So it's a weird landscape right now.
Gotcha. And we're getting a couple of messages here from one of our producers or slash somebody incognito, i.e. Mac. Uh,
Yep.
so they're talking about Belichick here, that he's a free agent coach, defensive head coach. If the Eagles lose in the playoffs, would the Eagles consider hiring him? No.
Yeah.
There's no chance of that. I understand that the media is like, oh, well, if he loses in the first round, blah, 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 he should get gone and whatever. We are not the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
I understand that sometimes you got to cut a coach, especially when things are going bad. That's why they got rid of Chip Kelly. They
Sure.
got rid of Peterson because Peterson really did not want to make a change after the season that he had. He was going to stand behind his coordinators. So listen, if you're going to stand behind your coordinators, you're going to have to go because we are not standing behind them as well. Those are the guys that need to be changed because we feel that you could have gotten better production from maybe better coaches. So
Sure.
I understand that scenario. I don't think Nick Sirianni is that guy. I think Nick Sirianni knows, like he needs the right people around him. He's a good coach. He's made it to the playoffs in 3 years, 3 times.
Yep.
Went to the Super Bowl last year. If he goes, and loses to Tampa Bay, does that mean that that's it? He sucks as a coach anymore? No. I
No.
think that means that the coordinators, maybe not the right people for the job, got to start putting better people in better places so that everybody can be in the right place to succeed. So,
Yeah.
and I don't think you do that by firing a head coach that just took you to the playoffs 3 out of 3 years. And between them has got like a record of what? Like it's like 36 and 17,
Something like that.
34 and 17. So ultimately, no. That we aren't the Panthers. We're not the Houston Texans who are playing those games. Jacksonville Jaguars. Teams got to have some type of consistency because another coach coming in here and thinking that they're going to do it. I mean, the only time that a coach switched teams and then all of a sudden won a Super Bowl was John Gruden. And realistically, John Gruden brought both of those teams to the Super Bowl because
Yep.
whoever took over for John in Oakland at the time didn't even change any of the terminology, which is why everybody went nuts with Oakland at the for the Super Bowl because they knew all the terminology was the same.
Yeah.
So it was like that one guy went crazy. He's like, I got to know all these words, and he lost it. It was too much. So that's the only one. But Tampa Bay was ready to win right then and there, and Gundy wasn't going to be the guy who brought him there. So, but yeah, I know what you think the word is, but obviously you're stuck up in Giants hell. They got some fractions up there in their locker room over there. Don't you worry about what the media says. I have a lot closer. I'm telling you, there is no fraction in the locker room. End of story. I'm reporting it. I am close to the action. I deal with these people on daily basis. So there you go.
I have to imagine. I have to imagine that Patricia's out though, right?
Yeah, I don't think Patricia. Well, you know what? I don't know that 100%. It's hard for Patricia to. All right, you hire a defensive coordinator. He comes in and he's more of an advisor in that situation. Your
Yep.
defensive coordinator starts to, I think that I be honest, I feel like Desai was looking behind his back. Hey, here's Patricia over here. It's like so. I think he started to overthink things, and it created hard times for the defense. That he was getting. He was micromanaging the defense, and you can't micromanage a defense. You have to.
No, for
You
sure.
have to just be. Hey, this is our scheme. Our
Yep.
scheme has got to have a little bit. It's got to be very fluid, but you got to be able to change things up on the fly a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to let your players make plays. Like,
Right.
simple as that.
And I don't think that they did that. So having Patricia try to trying to operate his, in Desai's defense. So I don't know that that's such a fair assessment for Patricia.
I mean, sort of, because at least he comes in already knowing what the terminology is, what they're running, right? So he can add his wrinkles, but it's not like he's adding a whole new defense, right? So I mean, it did look considerably worse after he got in there. Now, again, he took over, towards the end of the season, and obviously there's issues that surround that, but it's not like he came in from the outside not knowing where the team was, right? Granted, I'm not a huge Patricia fan, so I mean,
right. I me neither. Well then, Mac or Linda, whoever is the one doing the talking, the Giants. The Giants are in need of a defensive coordinator because Wink Martindale said, "Bye, you guys suck." That's what he said. You guys suck. I'm out of here. See ya. Give me my money. I want my money because I'm going to make you guys fire me instead of me resigning because you guys stink out loud. So maybe Bill Belichick will want to go there. So maybe I would worry about your Giants that are going to be sitting home on the couch this weekend watching the playoffs rather than, us Eagles that are going to be playing in the playoffs. Because I would rather play in the playoffs than not. And then how do you go like that? So we can talk about the Giants for a second since I'm getting bombarded with questions from a Giant fan. How is it that the coach of the year last year has so much disruption in his coaching staff that that they have a blow up? Like Wink Martindale's like, I can't you guys suck. Out.
Yeah.
Peace out. I'm out.
So what was crazy about that is he was gonna step down, and then they have that falling out, and he's like, "No, I'm gonna make you fire me. You're gonna pay me."
That's exactly correct. And you're right. It's not a pissing contest because I can piss farther. So.
Oh man.
You know what? I wish Bill Belichick all the best. My expectation is that if I was him, I would, he does have a personality, and I think that he would be amazing on these shows. Like I think that he would give a tremendous amount of insight. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. They came to a conclusion. He's actually getting half. So he didn't get all three. He got half. He got 1.5. So they came to an agreement. That being said,
Belichick would be great because when you see him outside of the football world, right? Like you see him with a headset on or at one of the round tables or whatever. I mean, because he's a plethora of knowledge, right? Like one of the smartest football minds out there. So I mean, but he's a different guy behind the desk than he is on the field. So he is actually, he's got that kind of dry humor to him, right? So I mean, when you watch him outside of the football world, it's not, he's actually pretty entertaining. So yeah, he would clean up on any of these shows.
Well, So I think he'll be just fine, but I don't think he's going to go be a coordinator anywhere. Um,
No, I mean, I still think that his ego wants him to go get that most winning coach ever, right? So he's probably gonna find a head coaching job somewhere.
yeah, I can imagine with so many openings.
Exactly.
How do you not? Um, as I think about it, I'm like, where would be a landing spot? I mean, I feel like realistically, the best landing spot for him is San Diego.
I mean, I don't know. I could see him. I could see him taking over Atlanta. I could see the Falcons' job being okay.
Well, yeah. Again, the quarterback, and does he want to play that game again?
I mean, he's any of the jobs that are open outside of San Diego or LA, whatever. Chargers. We'll just go Chargers. You know, it's any of them outside of that, you have quarterback questions. So I mean,
Actually, I'll be honest with you, Linda or Mac, whoever it is. I think Martindale is more likely to get hired by the Eagles than Bill Belichick. There ain't no way Bill Belichick is coming here. I'm telling you,
no,
there's no
definitely
way.
not. Definitely not.
There's no way.
I could see Wink going though. I could see that. That'd be a solid addition, especially since I really do think that Patricia probably finds his way out of the room.
Well, and I wouldn't be surprised. The one problem I have with Wink is that he couldn't beat the Cowboys. They could not beat the Cowboys. And that's
Yeah.
a big problem.
Sure.
And that's a problem. So, I think I'll be honest, I can't see him. The only other spot that is a potential spot. I don't know if Pittsburgh would do it, but if by chance Tomlin goes, would they go Belichick? And I know they like longevity with coaches. This would
Yeah.
this wouldn't be longevity.
No, not at all. I mean, that's the thing is with Belichick, it's a 2-3 year thing, right? So, I mean, that's going to be the hardest thing with somebody bringing him in. It's just like, okay, well, even bringing him in, you have to have an heir apparent in mind, right? Because I mean, he's not your long term fix. I mean, he's not going to coach till he's 80.
Right.
So,
Well, at least
I
you
mean,
don't think so.
I mean, that's fair. Who knows? But he could be that Paterno guy. I mean, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, that'll be the hardest thing for Belichick. I mean, someone will want to take a flyer on him just to see if they can turn, an organization around. But at the end of the day, he's not your long-term answer. So,
Right. Yeah. Again, I feel like that you need a team that's somewhat close.
yes.
That you need that extra push. When you take on a coach like Belichick or bring in like a quarterback like Brady or
Yep.
Rodgers, you have to feel like you're there. You're knocking on the door and you had one missing piece.
Sure.
It's hard to say that the coach is the missing piece. So,
No,
like I said,
I'm with you
it
there.
only ever happens once. There's a reason for that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm checking what the Atlanta Falcons' first draft pick is. Because the only reason I say that one is they actually have a lot of nice pieces. They have a decent defense. So if they had a good coach and a quarterback, and of course, let's be honest, there's quite a few in the draft, right? Not that any of them are necessarily NFL drop-in ready to go, but it is a division that isn't great. So, but I can't remember what their draft order is. Let's see, Atlanta Falcons draft picks. What do we got? Oh, they got the 8th pick. Yeah, so I mean, they could go get somebody. They have some weapons. They have a decent defense and a bad division. I mean, that just says Belichick all over it.
True. I mean, do you get Penix?
I mean, with that seems like a high pick for Penix, but I mean, if you're
Last I saw, Penix is a top 10 pick.
really, is that where they're slating it? Because I was thinking he's like a mid to late, closer to mid.
But if teams are going to go after quarterbacks,
Sure.
my expectation is, I mean, obviously you have number one is Chicago that will either trade it away, or I mean that's the biggest decision of their lives there. That's going to determine where this franchise goes from here on out. So
that's why I was so surprised that Eberflus kept his job. They fire everyone around him. He's a guy that really doesn't seem like he believes in Fields. So the fact that he kept his job makes me think they're moving on.
Well, is it really that they are moving on? They're not gonna.
Yeah, that they would end up doing some sort of deal for Fields. So I mean, that's something where in Atlanta, right? Potentially, gives up a third for him? Because I mean, he hasn't proven anything, so it's not like he's going to garner a high draft pick. I mean, we know he can run, but we haven't really seen him throw the ball, right? Like we know he can hit the flat. Well, I mean, awesome. Just about everybody on the team can hit the flat.
Right.
I mean, so it's not like he's going to get a huge return, but I mean, the way Eberflus, did things there makes you think that, Fields probably isn't his guy. I mean, who knows what he's going to do? It's the Bears. Like none of what they do generally makes sense, but it's that one organization. You're like, okay, this is the thing that they should do because, logically this is how it should go. And they're just like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, everything looks like they would probably move on, but, so then in Atlanta or something like that could make a play for Fields because you also don't know if he's not good. We don't know anything about him. They haven't put anything around him that, let him have enough time to throw the ball. So we know he can run, but down in Atlanta, he'd have a receiver, he'd have a tight end, he'd have, a running back, like a defense that's adequate. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think something like that could work. Obviously this is all speculation, so none of that's probably going to happen, but
Right. Exactly. So also talking about some other things that as I'm looking and reading some of the things that have come out, they have announced the teams for the international games, the teams that will be hosting international games.
Cool.
The Bears, the Vikings, the Jaguars, and the Panthers. Now, those are the four teams. The Bears, Minnesota. The Jaguars are going to be playing at Tottenham because that's the owner of them. Yeah, that goes to Tottenham. So it's either going to be the Bears or the Vikings that will be at Tottenham. The other one's going to be at Wembley. Then the Panthers are supposed to be the ones in Germany. I thought the Eagles were going to get the shot at Germany, but there's also going to be a game in Brazil.
Oh, that's right.
They have not announced.
Right. Oh, okay.
No game in Mexico this year because they're redoing that stadium in Mexico City.
I gotcha. Yeah, Brazil's going to be that's going to be crazy because that's Sao Paulo, right?
Yes, Sao Paulo.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's going to be a crazy environment. That one's going to be fun to watch. Yeah, I mean that actually they must not have announced all the games yet because that doesn't seem like enough of them. Because the Jags basically get two over there all the time anyway. It's their home away from home. Because I think they're one of the teams that plays in Wembley every year, right?
They don't play in Wembley; they play in Tottenham.
So they have for whatever reason they seem like they have a home game and an away game over there. Pretty routine
now. Well, that's because they're the team that if anybody team was going to move over to Europe, that would be the team.
Absolutely.
And I don't know that they're going to be able to do that in any real sense. I feel that would be something that could occur in 2030 when they have like another team that may be failing also be over in Germany. They would have to do like a whole division over there. So
For
they
sure.
need 4 to be able to make that occur. And that would be like, what do? You put them in the AFC or you put them in the NFC? It just wouldn't quite work, I think.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I think you could you could probably do it with 2, just because the flight from the East Coast isn't isn't that much worse than flying from the East Coast to the West Coast. Um,
yeah, it's when you have to go from the West Coast
no,
to
no,
go
no, like
play
that,
over there.
that'll be brutal for sure. But yeah, I mean,
I mean, actually, Seattle probably wouldn't be so bad because you just would fly over. Like my thought is that you would just fly over the pole.
well, Seattle just always has the most flight miles of any team anyway, so it just wouldn't be anything different to them. They've gone overseas numerous times. What, they were in Germany 2 years ago, so
Right.
yeah, I don't. Logistically, I think it'll work. It's a difference of a couple hours on the plane, right? Like, it's not like it's, oh, you're going down to New Zealand, it's going to take you a whole day, right? Like, it's the difference between 5.5 hours and 7.5 hours. Like, it's not the end of the world. Plus, it's not like they're flying, economy class or coach or whatever, right? They're not down there with the luggage. Like, they got some nice seats and planes, and they'd be fine.
Well, doesn't every team now have their own private, commercial jet?
I mean, you would think so, right? These are multi-billionaires that own these teams. They probably have airplanes. Yeah, you would hope so anyway.
I mean, I think that they do, but who am I? And I'm going to respond to this on Ken. Antonio Pierce. I think Antonio Pierce is going to get a lot of action here
Mhm.
if he doesn't remain the coach with Las Vegas. I'll be
think
honest. I feel like that they did this last year too. Or 2 years ago with
they did.
coaches where they had an interim coach come in, did a great job, and then he didn't stay with them. And ultimately, that coach didn't get another chance. Like he didn't go anywhere else, right?
Yep.
He became a defensive coordinator, I believe, somewhere. Um,
I think they
Antonio
learned from.
Pierce, same situation.
Yeah. So, and I think they realize. Well, I would hope. I would hope that he realized that, hey, we probably missed an opportunity, right? Because that coach also came in and won games. So then they move on to, McDaniels, which is, obviously a huge misstep. So it makes you think that maybe they look back on that situation. This team played, for Pierce, right? This team looked a lot better with Pierce. Even in losses, they looked like they played better for him. Now, some people are like, oh, yeah, the players just took over the team, stuff like that. Sure. Well, even if that's true, they played better, right? They were playing competitive football. So whether it was on the coach or it was the players or however you want to deem that, it doesn't matter. Wins are wins, right? If you're getting cohesion out of your team and they're rallying for each other and they're winning games, then awesome, right? I mean, it's why Jimmy G continued to get jobs. It's not like he's a fantastic quarterback. It's not like he can hit all the throws, but you know what he does have? A win percentage that you can't really argue with. So whether those games were won because of him or not doesn't really matter, because when he's on the field, somehow the team wins. So that's kind of the way I look at it that way. It's like, all right, well, I mean, give him a shot. What other options do you have? Like,
I don't know, but that ownership over there is so ridiculous most of the time. I expect that if there was a bad decision to be made, he's going to make it.
oh, I'm 100% with you. Like, Mark Davis is gonna do something dumb for sure. Like, it's probably not
starting with his haircut.
It's bad. It's bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's
No, it
definitely
was.
dumb and
it-
dumber.
It was always funny when you'd see him and Gruden next to each other, because he just looked like the microwaved version of Gruden.
If Chucky would have got thrown into a microwave, that's what you get, or thrown in the oven for too long.
Exactly.
So I find it just odd. But let's talk a little bit about, because obviously this was a surprise. We announced it right at the end of our show, so you've had now a full day to think about this. Pete Carroll being elevated. He's out at coach, but
Yeah.
elevated to
into an unknown front office position, because during his press conference yesterday, they're like, "Oh, well, what will you be doing in that situation?" And he's like, "I don't know. We'll have to figure it out." So it's a unknown job. Basically, they're creating a job. So that makes you think it's like, okay, we're going to be paying you, so we might as well keep you in house, and we'll find a job for you. It's kind of like in a movie where you have an executive producer that had nothing to do with anything, but they wanted your name on the film. They're just like, "Oh yeah, we'll make you an executive producer. You didn't really do anything, but you're in the credits." Like, I feel like that's kind of what they're doing with Carroll at this point. Is it's like, okay, we don't actually have a job for you, but we're going to create something because we're going to pay you anyway. So let's kind of keep it together. That being said, this is where I could see them really making a play at Harbaugh. Harbaugh would probably, it's a good situation for him, right? It's a team that has a lot of nice pieces. But when you look at the similarities to Carroll versus Harbaugh is hilarious, because when you think of Pete Carroll, right, he wins a couple of national titles, avoids NCAA sanctions, comes to the NFL, has a great draft class because he just coached all those guys, and ultimately wins a ring. So now when you look at Harbaugh, he wins national title. If he does leave, it's to avoid NCAA sanctions, and he's going to have a good recruiting class because he also just coached all these guys. So I mean, it's a recipe that we've seen before. It's successful. The only thing that would be funny about it is if Pete Carroll's still in the room. Those are very different personalities, and it's not like they were like close friends when they'd play each other, in the NFC West. So in that scenario, like as a fan, you're like, okay, this probably doesn't work. Like personality wise, wouldn't necessarily gel. As an analyst that wants to get in that room, I want to watch that because that seems hilarious.
Yeah, I think that would be hysterical. It reminds me a little bit of the Bruce Arians situation
Kind of. Yeah.
down in Tampa. Like, it's like, hey, we don't think we want you coaching anymore, but hey, why don't you come over and just go? You'll be the new executive. You're going to be the consultant to the team.
Exactly.
And it makes me, as I think about that, it makes me even angrier because he had that situation that was on the field where he said, "Hey," and the NFL's kind of, because they did the same thing with our Big Dom here in Philadelphia. It's like, "Oh,
Yep.
he touched a player, blah blah blah." So did Bruce Arians, and I kind of did the same thing. I was like, you know what, Bruce, you stay up in the booth. You're not allowed down on the field anymore because we can't
Yep.
allow that to happen. So maybe he was the one that set the precedence with Big Dom in Philadelphia. But you know what? Big Dom's back for the playoffs. We didn't have a great record when Big Dom was suspended from the field. Guess what? Big Dom's back.
True.
We were like, I think, at 10-2. So, I guess because he really got suspended in that San Francisco game, wasn't allowed back on the field since then.
True.
So he was 10-1 finishing games.
Yep.
I guess I feel much more confident with him back on the field again. But
I mean,
same
see.
thing. But this is a same situation here a little bit. I kind of feel that this Pete Carroll thing is a Bruce Arians mimic.
Well, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder if they did it in the way of, we don't want you to coach, but we also don't want you to coach against us. And since we hold all the cards because we still have the contract, we're not going to fire you, but we're also going to not let you do your job. So we're going to evolve your position so that you can't come back and beat us, but we're going to move on.
So, and a couple other things that I wanted to touch base on. Sticking with the playoffs before we move out of the playoffs. Detroit has said, do not wear a Stafford jersey into the stadium.
That's funny. I didn't hear that. That's amazing.
They're saying that now I got to imagine that they will not allow that to really occur. If you're wearing a Stafford jersey, that you're
still
going to be
letting
able to wear.
Yeah,
They're going to let you in. However, that they are making a media blitz to say, hey, no Stafford jerseys in. He was here. We love him for when he was here. He's gone now. Bye-bye. You know what I mean? It's like he got his ring. We haven't gotten ours yet. The
Yep.
city of Detroit, the Detroit Rams never had a parade. You know what I mean? So
That's right.
let's remember that, as much as we cared for him, yeah, he's gone now.
That's right.
So,
He's not our friend today.
So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that
That's
really
really
works. I've been watching a lot of videos on social media. TikTok. If you put up Detroit Lions Matt Stafford videos, you'll see a number of different ones that say, "Hey, don't wear your Stafford jersey. No Stafford jerseys. We're not going to do that this time." I'm sure
No,
some people will come in, but
and that's fair. That's fair, right? Some of that might be like, hey, we sell merch down the hall. Like, get a new jersey.
right. Or you'll see, yeah, they'll come in with Stafford's number and they'll have the duct tape put on the back of it.
Of course, yeah.
It'd be like
They have
traitor.
yeah, right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I found that kind of interesting as well. Where was the other one that I kind of saw that I wanted to talk about a little bit? So, the Titans are going to interview Pierce, the interim coach. So,
Yeah, they also asked the Cowboys to talk to Quinn.
yes, the Cowboys said that they're not allowing anybody to talk to any of their coaches till after the playoffs, which I
Which
feel like all playoff teams should do. You should
Yeah.
invoke that right.
Well, you should. You want them singularly focused. Like,
Correct.
focus on the games we got ahead of us. You can think about next year. Like, let's get through these games. I mean, there's only a few left, so
And the what was I? The GM, it's like, so the one GM of the Bears talking about the quarterback and such like that. We talked about this a little bit offline before we came on the podcast today. I wonder, first off, what do you think Fields gets? What do you think that he would? What type of return?
trade value, a third at best, right? Because again, there's so many question marks about him. You're like, okay, yeah, he can run the ball, great, but that's not helpful in the league. You need to be able to throw the ball too. And even when people were losing their minds in the preseason, right? He had 3 passes for 129 yards and 2 scores. You're like, yeah, he had -1 air yards. Let's pump the brakes on anointing him like the best quarterback ever. Like, everybody can throw over the D end and hit somebody in the flat. Like, let's calm down, right? So unfortunately, most of his gameplay has been very short air yards, and the plays that went long were because of yards after catch, yards after contact a lot of times as well. So I mean, some of those yardage totals, didn't necessarily fall directly on him. Not to say that that's not true for every team. Obviously, yards after catch is a huge thing when you're throwing the ball. Obviously, not every pass is 50 yards down the field. I get that. The problem with Fields is almost none of them are long down the field. Almost all of them are right around the line of scrimmage. And so that's where I don't think he gets a lot in return, because you just don't know where he is as a passer. And the Bears haven't put a team good enough around him for us to even find out. So, unfortunately for the Bears, they wouldn't get much in return. But I don't think they can squander another number 1 pick.
So, do you feel you have to stay with him?
No, I mean, if you don't believe in him as the head coach and you've just gotten all of your staff fired, then you have to move on, right? Because if you're gonna tie yourself to Fields again and it doesn't work, you're definitely fired next year, right? Like, there's no question. Like, you're absolutely down the road. So now you're like, okay, I got the number 1 pick. I can go get anyone I want. And, some people are like, oh, we'll trade back and get Marvin Harrison Jr. or whatever. That's great. But if you don't believe your quarterback can throw the ball, a fast receiver isn't going to help you. That's just a longer incomplete pass, right? Like that.
Right.
That's not exactly an awesome scenario. So if you are the head coach, all of your staff got fired, you have, quite a few picks and in good positions, then no, go get your guy. Because if you don't feel he's the guy, you're getting fired for sure. So pull the trigger, get your dude, trade him off, get a couple of picks for him if you can. You can probably get a third and a fifth and maybe like a conditional second, fourth, right, in another year if he plays okay somewhere, right? Like you can get a trade package for him, and he's getting close to where you got to pay him, and I haven't seen enough out of him to pay him. Right? He's getting close to that rookie deal. So if you can reset that rookie timeline, then the rest of your picks can go to help protect the next guy, get another receiver weapon that you should be able to get, in the second or third round. You still get a decent guy. You get some things to help that defense out. Like you can put some things together, and you're resetting your timeline on that quarterback money. It's probably your best chance to save your job. Because, again, if you don't believe in the guy, that's going to show up on the field.
So, okay. Staying in the North,
okay.
The Vikings GM says his intention is to bring back Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that? Before I talk about my thoughts on that.
So, here's my thing with Cousins, is he is a fantasy quarterback for sure, right? Stat monster. Dude will put up yards. He'll put up points, but he comes up short when it matters for like an actual team. And there's always the narrative of, hey, he can't play in prime time. And, whether you believe it or not, the stats kind of show that has some truth to it. And what is one thing that's super common about the last 4 games of the year, winning a Super Bowl? How many of those are in prime time? Yeah, all of them, right? Every single one of them. So if you shrink when the lights are brightest and the last 4 games that actually mean something are in those brighter lights, do I think you're just going to randomly, that you haven't shown in what he's been in the league for 14 years or something like that? So over that time period, you mean to tell me you're just going to randomly rip off 4 primetime games in a row? I mean, I don't know. I don't think I believe that. But that being said, he is a good quarterback. He wins you a lot of games. It's just one of those, for whatever reason, when it comes to that particular timeline, it doesn't generally go well.
Well, his record in Minnesota is 50, 37, and 1.
Sure.
He has gone to the playoffs twice in the 6 years he's been there.
Yep.
He's 35 years old. And, I've always said Kirk is a coach killer.
Sure.
He is good enough to make you think that you are able to go somewhere, but not good enough to actually get there.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what the story is with Kirk Cousins, and that has to do, all right, when the lights are brightest, you can't win those games and such. He's actually, I know when we played him on Thursday night, he actually played a pretty good game. It could have been good enough to win, but the Eagles won the game.
Well, so that's the problem. But how did you describe that? He played a pretty good game.
Right.
But there's 20 other quarterbacks in the league that can play a pretty good game, right? So
okay. One of them beat the Eagles in week 14. He looked like Joe Montana for the last drive, or week 13.
Right.
That last drive. It's like, hey, all of a sudden, Drew Lock is Joe Montana reincarnate. Right. So I mean, anybody can have a few moments of time, like a footnote in time that says, "Yeah, I'm going to be good right now," and that's what I feel like he is.
If Cousins could have, if he could have playoff games at the, let's see, on the East Coast, it would be the 1 o'clock timeline, right? If he had the 1 o'clock game East Coast time, the 10 o'clock here on the West Coast, I'd put money on him winning, right? Like I'd be like, oh yeah, Kirk Cousins can absolutely win a morning game like that, hands down. But as soon as you're like, oh yeah, he's going to have to play at 5:15, West Coast, or 8:15 East Coast, I'm not putting money on that. I haven't seen anything out of that dude that makes me think that's going to be a real thing. Certainly not 3 or 4 of them in a row.
I agree.
So
I absolutely agree.
Do they come where they run into an issue is what else you got? I mean, because this time around, he's probably not getting a guaranteed contract again, right? He's had 3 of them. I don't think he's going to do that 2 or 3 of them. He had 1 in Washington and then 2 with the Vikings. So I guess this would be his 4th guaranteed contract. So not for the same dollar figure that Deshaun got, but when you look at guaranteed contracts, which is why they're not becoming more of a thing, between those guys, how many playoff wins they got? 1, maybe?
Not even. I think he didn't even win one against. Well, maybe he did win one with Washington.
I think he has 1 win. I think he has one
Washington.
Win. Yeah,
but put him in Atlanta. He's got a lot of weapons and a lot of 1:00 games. You ain't lying about that because Atlanta is a hotbed.
When he was with the Vikings last year, right, and they won all those really close games, they only had 2 primetime games. You know how they did in those primetime games? They lost them both.
Right. So, and let's welcome Jay McLovin back to the show. He finally finished up whatever game he was playing or whatever he was doing over there.
We were talking some good Philadelphia, Tampa Bay love. It was beautiful. It's beautiful. About how bad Tampa Bay was just going to repaint your field and all the wonderful colors of Tampa. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah,
fireworks going to be off in the backfield.
I'd be more worried about the color green coming into Dallas, and we're not talking about the grass.
Hey, real quick, Pags, I got to tell you about this. Well, I was at church last night with the wife, and about 3 minutes before the service is getting ready to start, about 4 or 5 gentlemen down. I'm in about the 3rd pew from the front. About 4 or 5 gentlemen down. He's with his wife. He's talking about, the Cowgirls are playing I said, let me tell you something, sir. The Cowboys. I said, secondly, if you say some blasphemous stuff about the Cowboys, I will put you in prayer circle and we will have visuals around you to get you corrected, sir. So I had him laughing. It was kind of fun. But, it's just no matter where you go, people always got something to say.
Of course.
Well, that's because you're a bandwagon from Houston that is a Cowboys fan. We understand. We got it. So that bandwagon is moving right along just fine.
So I like this comment here. Could you see Belichick and Saban linking up in Vegas together? Absolutely.
Oh my God. And maybe a little dash of Pete Carroll on the side. Why not?
Right? No.
I can see Pete playing
Put
first
them all
base.
in Seattle. Make them all go up to Seattle. Be the offensive. Saban be the offensive coordinator. Belichick the defensive coordinator. Carroll the GM.
God,
that's.
Could you imagine that? Oh my God.
That's a match made somewhere.
That part of it's true. You would have needed church for that matchup.
Sometimes when you get that much alpha male coaching, whatever, it almost seems like they would butt heads a lot. And I don't know how that's going to do for synergy.
It would never work. They
would all be.
That meme with the little dog and the coffee and the room full of fire saying this is fine. That's exactly how that room would be.
Oh, easily. In all honesty, Saban wasn't good in the NFL. He was great in college. Did not do a damn thing with Miami when he had his opportunity.
I mean, that was also a long time.
That's what happens
ago.
when you're only there for 6 minutes.
Well, that's true. Hey, listen. Can anyone of you guys tell me without looking at Google how many NFL coaches or how many coaches have won the Super Bowl and the national championship?
Well, during the college football playoff type of thing, I think it's only 2. But before that, I think there's like 3.
Two more.
Yeah,
3.
Yeah,
There's 3 total quarter. There's 3 coaches. Do you know who they are? Obviously, Pete Carroll's one.
And Pete Carroll.
So you got Pete Carroll. Who's the other 2?
Switzer and Johnson.
Damn right. And what team are they associated with? Winners, baby. All day. All day, baby. Winners. All day. That's what we do.
That's what I give it to Jimmy Johnson. And your beard was really dark brown back then.
It was dark brown. It was.
That VHR,
a little more color in it.
Is lost its luster. You
what are you
got to
talking about?
rewind it still.
It was patchy, and there was only 3 of them.
You know what? Hey, but that does tell you though that our franchise has a little bit more storiedness to it than the Eagles. mean, for crying out loud, Invincible was based off that crap.
Well, listen.
Oh, so no, that actually makes a ton of sense. You like old stories. That's why you were at church. So you wanted something you had to knock the dust off. I got it.
There's a lot of dust, let me tell you. There's a lot of dust.
That's
That man had a CPAP machine and an oxygen purifier.
The only thing that happened, it was the birth of Christ, Dallas winning the Super Bowl, and now we're in today. You know what I mean? It was so. Wow. Only here will you get religion and football talked on the same platform in the same sentence. The birth of Christ and the Dallas Cowboys winning the Super Bowl happened just 2 years after each other.
Oh, man. You know the best part about that is there was an echo reverb for that.
Like almost like it was the Lord saying, "Hey, yeah, I'm waiting for the lightning strike to come."
Yeah.
Hey, that's why I had to back up a little bit.
No. It's good, though, because that'll be awesome for ratings. Live on TV, here we go. Pags gets struck.
The Lord strikes down Pags.
We got the play-by-play.
Pags was a good man.
Hey, before we go to a commercial break, we were talking about Kirk Cousins and how the Vikings were looking to possibly bring him back. Any thoughts on that there, Jay?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, with what they have right now, yeah, I mean, he would be welcome back. He's got a little bit left in the tank. He's not going to get you a long time, so they still have to go to the draft. I think Minnesota has to be in the draft this year. And they need to advance up, and they need to pick their air select. The draft is deep. There's somebody there that they can get. They don't necessarily get number one, but there's definitely 3 or 4 guys that could come in and take over for when they are ready to move on from Kirk Cousins. But yeah, they need to draft one, and they need to sign Kirk Cousins at least for 1 to 2 years. They don't need to do anything long, 1 year, 2 year, and then call it good.
Well, yeah, but do you think he's going to sign for just 2 years? I mean, he's 35.
You're right.
They do have the 11th overall pick, so they could go get a guy.
Yeah. If I'm at 11, I'm going to try to trade up to it depends on how the draft goes, but you got to think there's a lot of teams in that first top 10 that really could use a quarterback that are probably going to take one. So, I'm probably looking for the one that doesn't need a quarterback that's probably going to go out for an offensive tackle or something, and I might try to look to trade with him.
Would you possibly give up now, if you're the Vikings, would you possibly give up a 3rd round pick with a conditional 3rd, 2nd, 1st round pick to Chicago? And I'm saying a conditional 3rd, 2nd, 1st because it would be if he starts all 16 games, it goes from a 3rd to a 2nd. If he gets into the play, actually. He gets to the playoffs, gets to the Super Bowl, 2nd and 1st. So that's kind of how I would work that. With Chicago for Fields.
No.
Not for Fields. I just don't like that guy. Me personally, I just don't like Fields. I don't.
Yeah. So I don't love the team construction for Fields there. That's why I was thinking Atlanta would probably be a better trade partner for Fields. But yeah, I don't necessarily love
the only litmus test that would be there for Fields to go to, let's say, like Minnesota, where he would have Addison and he would have Justin Jefferson, and he's got Hawkinson. When you got a wide receiver, or you got number 1 and number 2 good wideouts, and then you got your tight end your security blanket, and you got a halfway decent O-line. If he can't make that offensive line work or that offense work, then you definitely know he ain't worth a damn nickel.
No. So he needs to go somewhere that has a coach that wants to be able to use the running game, though, and that's not something Minnesota does, right?
Well,
they actually have.
He might be the running game.
Well, no, but that's the problem is they don't use the running game because it's not like Madison is a terrible running back. Like if you hand him the ball, he put up yards. So it's a team that doesn't like to run the ball. Fields needs one.
Look at Buffalo. Buffalo, Josh Allen is their leading rusher. Weird as that is. And then you look at Baltimore, Jackson's damn near their leading rusher. So, I mean, it's not like that's an uncommon thing to see.
No, but let's pump the brakes a little bit because Fields is not Allen or Lamar.
Again, I'm not saying he is. I'm just talking about the running aspect of it.
No. But so he needs to go somewhere that has a coach that wants to use the running game, that has a good running back option, right? But still has weapons. The Vikings aren't that. They just ignore the running game as a whole. There was, I think it was to start the year, through 3 games, it's like 19 touches.
I think that probably is. I've heard this one quite a few times where they were talking about Vegas offering up Max Crosby and a couple of first rounders or first and a couple of second rounders. I mean, this whole big smorgasbord.
That would be terrible.
That would be terrible.
Terrible
that
trade.
Would be absolutely
but that
terrible.
would be right up Vegas's alley. So
that would be up Vegas's alley.
So if I'm the Vikings, would you offer a 6th round pick for Russell Wilson?
Well, I mean, man, you got to really figure out what it is they're trying to do with that contract because they can't move the contract. I don't see anybody paying much of it.
Well, the reason why that they even have availability to be able to do that is because they don't have any quarterbacks on contract now. So realistically, they probably have more money to be able to do this, and you're eating it for a year. You know what I mean? You'd probably work it, restructure the contract so that you add 2 years to the back end. You give them a couple $1 million signing bonus, and you just extend the contract to lessen the ATV, but and then guarantee more. But something to think about.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, is Russell Wilson worth a 6th round? If you look at just his worth versus a pick, it makes total sense. But I like what Bo said. It really, for me, it comes down to the money. Do they want to take on that contract? And I don't know if I'm willing to take on Wilson's contract. I'm okay with the 6th round pick for Russell Wilson. I think that's an easy pick or an easy decision. But it's where the money comes in. I don't want to tie up that much damn money in that guy.
It's the money that's the reason why it's only a 6th round pick and not anything.
No, I understand. That's why I'm saying I wouldn't do it because I'm not taking that damn money.
I mean, obviously, Wilson can make that offense run, right? I mean, it's not like he's completely washed.
I don't know. Can he?
Sure.
Is that really that solidified that he can make that offense run?
Sure, he can throw the ball.
I mean, he had good wide receivers out there in Seattle, but yet at some point they moved on from him because he couldn't make it work there. Why is he all of a sudden going to make it work over there now?
Well,
I mean, for me, the Russell Wilson part for me is he has no hunger. He has an office away from the team, which means he's not a team guy. He doesn't want the chemistry. He doesn't want to get in sync with his people. There's a lot more than just being able to throw the rock that's going to make you a good quarterback, and I think he has none of it.
No, I agree with all of that. I mean, obviously, personality plays a role, for sure. And I don't know that that's a recoverable thing from his tenure in Denver at this point. So a change of scenery is probably going to be good for him. I'm sure he's learned something through this process. You'd hope so anyway. But one of the biggest problems, especially as time progressed for Seattle when he was here, is he really believed the hype of I throw the best moon ball in the game, right? Because nobody could talk about anything else than how great his long ball was. And unfortunately, it's why so many 3-and-outs happened is because he just really didn't use tight ends very well. So it would be something he'd have to adapt to, but he'd still have that deep threat in Justin Jefferson, right? They actually have a relatively decent defense, so it's not like he has to play hero ball the whole time. It's a situation that could work. I don't know that it would necessarily be more successful than Cousins, though. It'd just be different.
Let me say this. Peyton took a Drew Brees out of San Diego from nothing, and he developed him and made him into one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Sure.
And now think about this. You talked about change of scenery. He left a great scenery. He had a lot of great wideouts, had a great offensive scheme, had a pretty damn good coach over there, comes over to Denver, gets one of the best developmental coaches in terms of a quarterback's approach, and still can't do a damn thing with it. And all of a sudden, you think just because he goes over to Minnesota, that change of scenery is going to be any damn different? Okay, go ahead, believe that shit if you want. I got some more marijuana if you want to smoke it.
No, that's why I said I don't think it would be more successful than Cousins.
No, he's not going to be.
I think it would actually be very similar to Cousins.
Absolutely.
It would be a different path to get there, but I think it would be essentially the same result.
Yeah.
except maybe you'd win a couple more primetime games if he was playing well.
Yeah,
That being said, real fast, let's take our
yeah.
station identification break. We're at the top of the hour. We will be back in just a few moments with the second hour of Coast to Coast. Be with you shortly. I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this
Oh,
team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, guess any.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
And we're back with the second hour of Coast to Coast with Pags, Bo, and McLovin. We're going to change gears from the NFL. I know we do mostly NFL talk here. I'm going to change gears for a few minutes to a sport that we very rarely talk about, but I wanted to bring it up because right now, one of us is in the middle of a 7-game winning streak in our city. And that is the Seattle Kraken is cracking down on everybody. They started off pretty slow, but have a 7-game winning streak right now in the NHL. And I wanted to be able to bring that up and see, are they rejoicing in Seattle about the Kraken?
Yeah, I mean, so again, we're a sports town. We love our teams, and so we like to see our team's doing well. And of course, the Kraken got off to an incredibly slow start. Like you were a little worried about how slow they started out, but they've really turned it around and started coming on. And we're halfway through the season, so this is that period where you kind of had to, right? Like if you want to have a shot at sneaking into the playoffs, you got to have your stuff figured out by halfway through the season to have enough time to be able to climb back into it. I want to say they're fifth in the West. Is that right?
They are fifth in the Pacific.
Yeah. So they're within striking distance to still climb into a playoff spot as long as they continue to play well. So yeah, I mean, of course, locally, you're excited for your team to be playing some of their best hockey as, you're starting to take a glance at what's in front of you, right? Like if you're going to play bad, you want to do it early.
Hey,
Mama Bo,
Bo,
is very happy about the Kraken right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he should be. His team is playing well. I mean,
Yeah.
Man, 7-game win streak, that's not bad. I mean, I remember Seattle, because God does Mickey Delaney didn't let me forget about it. He's a Seattle guy, so he kills me. Everything's Seattle to Houston or Seattle to Dallas. Like I said, Texas we only got the Dallas Stars, but y'all played the Dallas Stars pretty damn hard in the playoffs. I mean, really, you really did. There was a point where I wasn't sure if we were even going to get past. We didn't even see the Golden Knights at that point.
Yeah.
So I did learn. I got a lot of respect for Seattle after that series. I really did.
Well, I mean, they started before this 7-game winning streak. They were 10, 14, and 9. So,
Yes.
which is really, in lack of a better terms, 10 and 23. Just so
Yeah.
that for anybody who doesn't know hockey well enough, the 9 is not ties. Those are 1 point losses. So
Yep.
that you going into overtime. The hockey has made sure that they screw up all of the standings by offering a 3 point game, but you don't get 3 points for a win. So
It's weird.
oh,
Yes.
it is a pain. It is pain, but I understand why
Another
they
team,
do it.
Pags, another team who I really didn't think they were going to be at the top of our division, but they are, is Winnipeg. They're on top of the Central, and they're on a 7-game win streak. And I didn't think, I mean, like Winnipeg, they never really crossed my mind a whole lot. Not that I watched hockey religiously like that, which I'm starting to get into hockey a little bit more, but I just never really thought Winnipeg would be this good, and they had it because last year they weren't even close to this last year. So I don't know what happened between last year and this year. I guess I have to go more depth into what they did. But
Actually, Winnipeg was in the
top
playoffs
of the
last year.
division.
Winnipeg was in the playoffs last year. I don't think that they got out of the first round, but they were.
If they did, yeah. I guess I didn't see that, but I didn't think they were. I just didn't think they'd be on a 7-game win streak and on top of us. Matter of fact, it's them, Colorado, and then Dallas is in the third spot. But
So Dallas is still right now got a playoff spot because you have to be in the top 3 in your division,
yeah,
and then also after that you can be in the wild card for 2 spots within the conference. But ultimately, that's where we're still a little bit of ways away from that yet. The Winnipeg Jets are taking on the Chicago Blackhawks, which took a very big hit to their roster. Connor Bedard, who is the number 1 pick, who is like the Gretzky heir apparent to hockey right now, is got his jaw broken and got that kind of figured out. So he's going to be 6 weeks. Going to miss the All-Star game because of it. Not that I think that he was even an All-Star yet, but I mean, ultimately, I want to see what his stats are so far this year. 15 goals, 33 points isn't so bad in 39 games. So obviously he was playing pretty well for a team that stinks out loud and that the NHL protects all the time. That's why they gave the Blackhawks the number 1 pick in the draft to be able to pick Connor Bedard. But between him and Cutter Gother, whatever his name is, Gauthier, whatever he is, he's obviously not going to be playing anytime this year because he's playing for Boston College. But either way, these 2 guys are supposed to take over the NHL. I can't wait for our guy from the Russians to come over and, maybe we can smuggle him out of Russia at some point and get him on the Flyers because I know he wants to play on the Flyers. And, if you want to play here, we want you to play here.
let me ask you this, Pags. Boston last year had the best league record, and of course, they obviously didn't go far in the playoffs. Here they are at the top of their division again. I think they're like 4th in the league right now, with Winnipeg being at the top. It looks like Winnipeg is at the top actually.
Well, Winnipeg is in the West, so they're the West.
Well, if you look at the whole league, though, in terms of their standings, they're actually at number 1. They are 27 and 9.
Right, but that's I mean, I haven't looked at the standings in terms of the entire league. I know that
I'm looking at it right now. That's what I was trying to tell you. I mean, Winnipeg is at the top of the league. I'm just curious as to Boston. Like, do you think that Boston is going to be another first-round exit, even though they have a really good record?
Depends on who they get up against. So the one thing that I have learned, and it's usually very big on all sports. It's the same thing with all sports. When you are winning games at a constant basis throughout the regular season, and you get these high records like, hey, we just broke the record of the most wins ever in the regular season, most points ever, whatever it be. The hardest part is that when you go into the playoffs, it's hard to shift gears because you've been playing at such a high level throughout the regular season, but you have to be able to shift gears to get into that 6th gear. so that you could keep up with the speed, because the moment the playoffs start, everything gets faster.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
When you have been beating everybody with ease, that gear is very hard to find. So you think of Seattle when they won 115 games. You think of Boston when they did last year. Before them, it was the Tampa Bay Lightning they got swept out of the playoffs. So I feel that winning all of those games and being at the top of the league, I mean, it's usually, especially in the NHL, whoever wins the President's Cup doesn't win the Stanley Cup. And there's a reason why they call the Stanley Cup the hardest trophy to attain in sports, because it takes you 16 games. You have to win 16 games to win that cup.
Right.
And there's no other playoffs like it. So
it's a fast-paced, brutal. I mean, right after football. Them in football are probably the most brutal sports out there. You're right, and if you got to go 16 games, that's like going through a whole another NFL season in some cases just to get the trophy.
Yep.
Exactly. Because you could play as many as 28 games. So think about that. You're going to be playing at the end of the season 130 games, potentially.
Yep.
Right.
It's a lot of hockey. The Bruins problem, my personal opinion on the Bruins, their goalie. Jeremy Swayman is soft as peanut butter. And that's his problem.
Rough sport to have a soft goalie.
Yeah.
Right. And now he's doing pretty well. But I tell you, I love it when Boston comes to Philadelphia and they're playing Jeremy Swayman. Because all I got to do is do a chant. Jeremy, they're coming for you, Jeremy. You're going to let this one up, Jeremy. And he folds like a house of cards. So I'm a big fan of when they come in. That being said, they are a good team. They do have some great players. But I suspect that, unless they can figure out where that next gear is and they can use a better goalie, because that's the problem. If Jeremy Swayman has got to play in the playoffs, he is not going to win.
Let me ask you guys a question. I've been thinking about this the other day and I keep thinking about this when it happened. That one guy, I think it happened up in Europe when the blade, sliced that guy's throat and he wound up dying, and then that guy wound up going to jail for like manslaughter or something like that. I wonder if you're playing in the game of hockey, if it ever goes through their mind, what if my blade, or what if I take a fall or something and it does hit somebody? Am I going to go to to me? That still kind of weighs on me a little bit. And I wonder how the hockey players feel about that.
Repeat what you're saying. I'm not, I lost.
Well, I know, Bo, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I also need you to repeat that.
So the guy's blade, I think he was falling or something. Something was happening where his blade got kicked up in the air.
Oh,
and
the guy died. The guy that died. I will tell you that the guy who did that and kicked his blade up, he should. I'll be honest. I understand that this is a crazy sport and whatever, but that was done a little bit maliciously, because he got hit, got thrown off, kicked his leg up, and did that. Now, does that mean that he deserves to get an involuntary manslaughter? I'm sure he didn't mean to try to kill the guy, but ultimately he did do it to kind of maim. He did that purposely because he's done it before. So I don't think he was allowed to play this year. I may be wrong, but right. I know that that was done with a little bit of malicious intent and should have been, and he should have been removed from playing the sport ever. That's the reason why he's not in the NHL, actually, because he's a cheap shot artist and he does those types of things. So I hear that, and
I didn't see the play. I just read the article on it, and I was like, wow. But again, what you're saying, I mean, if it was malicious, then yeah, of course, because that is an instrument to kill somebody. I mean, if
it's hard to prove. It's hard to prove malintent,
Sure.
You could tell that he did kick his leg up when he got hit, so it was a little awkward. And of course, it just caught him in the right spot, so it was like, he bled out very quickly. It was just, he went right in, held it, and there was no way. Like, it was just, it was freak accidents. So I don't, like I said, it's hard to prove the malintent, but this guy has done that before. So
yeah, he's not Happy Gilmore. He didn't take his skate off and try and stab somebody. Like,
right. And I gotta imagine, even if he is a cheap shot artist, the fact that guy died, that's got to carry some kind of weight in his head.
Sure,
I'm sure. It's not something that I like I said, I can't imagine that he wanted to try to kill the guy. You know what I mean? Like, it was like he maybe tried to do something where it got him. You know what I mean? That his leg got him good, but the fact that it slit his throat was.
But don't you think that more of these hockey players, they should have some sort of guard that goes around their throat to keep them protected from something like that? Because I got to imagine that there could be a freak accident where you go down in a certain way. Maybe somebody's coming up behind, and maybe you just tag them.
There's been a couple of times where that has occurred.
Sure.
I remember a goaltender having to say his neck cut just because of a weirdo play. Like, nothing like that. It wasn't even – that was done with less – intent, with no intent at all, just happened to slip up and trip it, and it just so happened to cut his neck, and they had to get everything out there. He wound up making it, but it's scary sometimes that
right. And that's why I feel like the NHL should make that a mandatory piece of gear just for their protection, their safety. I mean, and if I'm a player and playing hockey, I would wear it anyway because I don't want nobody hitting my neck.
Yeah, it's such a weirdo situation that makes that occur. Like, it's think about it, in all of hockey, there's only been 2 or 3 situations that have been where somebody's neck has been cut.
Right.
And I believe I think the first one that happened, not the goalie, but the first one that happened, the guy did die. And then this guy that just passed away. And this was in a lower level. This was like a beer league move.
Oh,
the
Lord,
guy did
yeah.
in a professional setting. You know what I mean? It wasn't the NHL, but I think it was the ECHL or something like that. And it was just a really bad type of situation that occurred. And like I said, I can't imagine that the guy went out there. He's like, hey, I'm going to try to kill this guy if he hits me. But it was done with a little bit of malintent. And I would not allow that guy back into, sports, professional sports ever again.
Sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of, that's a pretty good segue because this is actually something that I wanted to talk about towards the end, but maybe we can kind of talk about it now, especially since we are all fans of our teams. And, especially myself, I always bring on a lot of hates because of the way that I am a fan. And
I have absolute love for you. Total love. Every day.
I know you do.
I literally wake up and I say, you know what? I love Pags.
You got to go to confession now. I know you were at church yesterday, but now you got to go to confession, you liar. So, that being said, the situation that occurred with the Bills and the Dolphins and the fan that was shot and killed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. That is
insane. That is insane.
Like, is this where the level of us has gotten to where we're shooting people outside games? I mean, damn.
Well, I remember that happening in soccer. Like, I want to say it was 15 years ago. One of the players, it was in Europe. One of the players passed back to his goalie, and his goalie missed it, and they shot him on the field.
Well, that ain't the first time. Remember, even just recently, where it was one of the football players, guys. They were at one of their kids' football games and one of his relatives shot that guy, and he died.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I remember hearing about it. Yeah.
I mean, it's just is this the level of where we're going now?
Crazy. It's crazy.
What happened there?
So I don't remember the football player's name. I cannot remember it. But a football player had a kid that was in a football league, and whatever happened in the game, one of the relatives of that NFL player shot and killed, I think, the coach or something during the game. It was on ESPN. It was This is maybe about a few months, 3 or 4 months ago. Oh, if I can remember, I cannot remember the guy's name. It had nothing to do with the NFL player himself, but it was his relative that shot the coach, and the relative is the one that wound up going to jail. But it just seems to me, Pags, a lot of these, whether it be at a Little League coach or whether it be John Morant flashing a gun, it just seems to me that weapons are making them way more into these sports than they have, back in our day. It just seems there's more violence surrounding them. I mean, even looking at the guy that what's the dude that just got released, the shortstop out down there in Dominican Republic for issues. The fuck is his name?
I don't remember.
I can't remember. I'll think about it here in a minute. But it just seems like there's a lot more violence surrounding sports now than what it was when we were growing up.
So I was wrong. It was a little longer ago than I thought. Apparently, I'm just old. So it was 94, and it was during the FIFA World Cup. He passed back to his own goalie, who missed it, scored on his own goal, and he was shot and killed for it.
That is nuts.
Was it Colombia? That was Colombia, right?
Let's see what Escobar was the guy's name.
That definitely sounds Colombian,
right? Yeah, Colombia. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is not obviously this isn't the first time that this has occurred here. I mean, I remember hearing about a Raiders fan being killed in Kansas City. And it's like so. There has been.
That'd be the other way around.
you would think, but it wasn't. I mean, it's there. Philadelphia always gets a bad rap for these types of situations, and like I said, it makes me a touch more nervous. Being the fan that I am, and like I said, I'm very loud. I am obnoxious. You're not going to be able to tell me I get it. So it's part of what it is it's part of why you love to hate me. But
the 12 days of hate started with me.
But I don't feel like I do anything that deserves me getting shot.
No, absolutely. Maybe punch in the face, but definitely not shot.
Guess what? Pack a lunch. When you're ready.
I've got several. I've got overalls to go with it. Let's go, man. I'm kidding. Pags, let me ask you this. We've seen, like you said, lots of times where fans just get crazy with other fans. We see it all the time in the stadiums. Sure. Have you ever gone, and Pags, you've gone to a lot of stadiums wearing your gear, going crazy. Have you ever had instances where fans have said something to you where you kind of felt, damn, maybe I'm in a tight situation here?
There's two fights one fight I almost got into that another super fan kind of caught me right as it was about to occur because this fight was about to go down, and the one super fan grabbed me and he's like, "Nope, I got you, dude. It's all right." And I'm like, and he's like, "Nope, I got you. It's all right." And then just kind of escorted me out. And the one guy was still bapping at the mouth and doing whatever. And that was in Tampa Bay at the last time we played in the playoffs down there.
Okay.
So
interesting.
The other one was a Giants fan who tried to start some stuff. And I was painted up. I wasn't as elaborate as the Philly sports guy is now, but I was painted up. And this guy did it. And ultimately, I was with three other guys, the four of us that would go together. I was the small one of the group. So I'm 6 foot, 230 pounds. Imagine who the other guys are around me. You know what I mean? So one of the guys was like, you know what? Went and got security. That guy got removed. Yeah. So, and that was the only time.
I know you've gone to Dallas. I know for a fact you've been at Dallas. And, Dallas and Eagles, obviously we have an incredible rivalry there. How did Dallas fans treat you, man? Were they pretty cool with you? I mean, I'm sure they said some things, but were they all in all, were they pretty cool with you, though?
During the game, you got to have the thick skin on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But they love me down there. And I love them. I mean, real Dallas fans, like Dallas fans, in theory, get a bad rap. One, because
Sure.
they are always, they're going to go this year. Everybody's that they're going to go this year. That your team sucks and our team's great. That's how they cheer. I
Right.
cheer the
Right.
opposite way. My team's great. We're going to beat your team.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Now, when it comes to Dallas, that changes a little bit because of the hatred for Dallas between Dallas and Eagles fans. There's a reason why.
Absolutely.
There's a reason why it's the number one rivalry in the NFL because
Oh,
both
absolutely.
fan bases are strong-willed fan bases. Dallas Cowboy fans who are in Dallas, or like that are in Dallas or from Dallas, are great fans.
Right. I mean, we're
It's
going
the
to give you
fans-
shit, but we're not going to try to start a fight with you.
the
This
fans
is the way
in
it should. We should be able to
Philadelphia-
be thick-skinned about it.
Well, no, I mean
The-
that's the thing is you want your rival to be running your mouth. Like that's part of the
Oh, absolutely. Because that retribution's a son of a bitch.
No, I want you talking because I want to talk.
Absolutely. No, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
Right.
we're there to have fun
Yeah.
and watch the game. And at the end of the day, it's not like we get paid by these teams. So I'm still going to go home and feel fine about my life. But
That's exactly it. They are not our mother. They are not our mother. We are
Yeah.
not defending their honor.
Exactly.
Right,
So
absolutely.
no, it's like you want to go there, you want to have a good time, you want to watch the game, you want to run your mouth and chirp back and forth with other fans. Like that's part of the joy of going to a game. The fact that it escalates to where some of these things, fights happen and people get shot, and like that's insane to me.
I don't understand that part. That's when you go. That's going to a whole nother level, brother.
And it
So
doesn't
that's-
make any sense.
So what occurs, and I'll tell you how this happens.
Well, liquid courage usually starts it. But
Well, that's true. There is a little liquid courage.
That
You gotta
absolutely
believe.
helps. That absolutely helps. But ultimately, that's one of the reasons why I never drink at a game.
sure.
When I'm at the game, I do not drink. I'll be drinking water, and that's it. I drink after the game. I may have a shot or two before the game, but I don't even drink leading up.
Oh,
to the
so you
game.
pregame, you just don't during game.
No, I may pregame very, very, very slightly. Like I may have a beer and a shot, but that's it.
I don't believe you. I got to call bullshit.
Go
No,
ahead.
no, no.
Well, you can call it all you
I'm
want.
thinking there's
Call it all
about
you
8
want.
shots lined up, and then you're rolling out.
Yeah,
Nope.
all I'm saying is you're a
even a
better
little bit.
human.
Hey, what do they call that, Pags? Are you doing the rainbow? You ever heard that rainbow shot where it's like 10 different shots? Like that, you get into the rainbow.
It's the ski, right? It's
Yeah,
technically
exactly.
one
Like,
shot.
yeah. No,
No, I mean that makes you a better human than me. Like I will absolutely tailgate before, and then we'll drink during the game. We'll drink after. But
well, and I drink after the game. First off, the difference between you going to a game and I going to the game is tremendous because I
Sure, I'm not
stop
painted up.
and take pictures every 4 steps. I have people come down to take pictures with me during the game. Anywhere I go takes me 45 minutes to an hour because I stop to take pictures, and I don't turn anybody down.
Pags,
Fan
look at
or
this face.
foe.
You don't think I got that same problem? Look at this face, Pags. I can't even go outside my doorstep without the door lacing. God, you're sexy.
I mean, people are always trying to get pictures of Bigfoot, so that makes sense.
Oh, that hurt. Oh.
But what actually occurs? So what
You're on
actually
me
occurs,
today,
I
bro.
feel-
Well, I'm not in the playoffs, I just
Oh, that's true. You're not in the playoffs, but me and Pags are.
we don't even have a coach, right? Like we have no idea what we're doing.
God, I don't want to go down. Because I know Pag. I just want to know if you think Belichick goes there.
No, God, no.
No,
There's
I
no
don't think
chance
so.
in
either.
He's a free agent.
Yeah, no. Pete's still in the building. There's zero chance that goes.
No, I don't think he goes there either. I do think maybe Atlanta. They've had conversations maybe about Atlanta and a few other couple spots, but I think Atlanta could be a possibility. Where he only really needs a quarterback.
So, but to go back to what we were just talking about, what occurs, I feel, is that with a lot of liquid encouragement, when you start bantering back and forth, people don't know how to banter properly. So ultimately, it goes from, hey, your team stinks to your team stinks to you suck. And you're this and you're that and you're
Yeah,
this.
they always try to make it personal rather
and
than
it becomes personal because they don't know how to banter.
Or they run out of material on the material they're trying to banter, and so when they run out of material, then it goes to you because they don't want to just be the loser in the banter of battle.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. It happens the same thing in a politics conversation. Typically, is you just run out of knowledge, and then that's all they have, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So then you resort to the only tactic left.
Yeah, I'm just going to take swings at you because I don't have enough information to actually back up what it is I'm saying. And so, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, and I mean, it's obvious how it gets there, but it shouldn't get there is the thing. I mean,
it never should. It never should.
It's like if you got nothing
left, you take the fun out of it, Bo. When you get to that level, there's no more fun in the bantering. Then it just becomes craziness, or it goes from being fun and having a good time to being hateful. And I hate the part where it goes to hateful. Because then what are we doing as human beings? What are we doing?
Well, I mean, like one of the times I went to a Cardinals game and we beat the brakes off them, right? Like it was like 50 something to like 7, or like it was a horrible game, and was talking a ton of shit, right, going into the game. But by the end of the first quarter, like it wasn't even fun to like chirp back and forth anymore because it's just like, oh man, you got 45 minutes of football left.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you, Bo. I'm the kind of guy, if I run out of bantering material, I'm going to say, yo, bro, we need a break. Let's go get some beer while I think about some more shit to say.
So like, in this scenario, I sent them beers, right? Because I was talking a ton of mess.
Yeah, and it's cool, though. It's cool, though. That's how you keep the friendship. You keep the camaraderie of it. You keep the fun. I mean, that's the fun, right?
So bad. Plus, you like, are you really going to drink beer? What, are you going to pile on at that point? You're just like, man, you got 45 minutes left of something you spent like $600 in tickets on. It's like, here, you can have a beer on me. Like, I feel bad, and I've been on the other side of that. I went to the Saints game where we were 3-1 going in. They were 0-4, right? And I'm chirping hard, right? I'm like, you about to be 0-5. This team is a bottom dweller for sure, and they beat us down, right? And so and they beat us down immediately. Like it was a game. It wasn't really a game right away. And they're like, got nothing else to say. I'm like, I mean, kind of no. Like, I mean, like, I
really don't. Hey, you want to go get some beer, get some pizza?
I was just like, I mean, we're watching the same game, right? Like, I don't know, I got nothing left. Like, like I want to say some stuff, but there's, we're down by like 25 already.
So if you watch this show, you have learned 8 different ways how to handle bantering. I love this, Pags. Let's keep going.
Yeah. So you know what happens in all of these ways is you're
not. It's true. I feel like that this second segment has become a psychology segment on how to handle bantering.
Well, and it should, because in how it is we're laying it out.
Yeah,
what doesn't happen in those scenarios is you don't get in fights. You're just like, man.
Well, that's true though, right? You don't. If matter of fact, if anything, you probably make a couple of friends that you didn't think you were going to meet. Because quite honestly, I'll be honest with you, I didn't like Pags at first. He's an Eagles guy. Naturally, I'm not going to like him. But the more I've gotten to know Pags, the more I have developed an affection that I do like Pags. He can be an Eagles fan. I will tell you what it is. I would take Pags to my house. We'll watch Eagles-Dallas game. I'm going to give him all the shit I can give. He's going to give me all this shit. At the end of the day, no matter if Pags wins, I'm still going to offer him some smoked brisket and a pint. It's going to be all good.
Absolutely.
All good.
Absolutely.
And I tell people.
Might spill the beer, but whatever, it's all
good. I tell people who come into Philadelphia who are nervous about coming into Philly. And I'm like, listen, here are your 2 rules. Wear your thick skin.
Yep.
What they say is not something that they mean. You know what I mean? So wear your thick skin. And if you don't engage an ass, you don't have to become one.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's really you know right away when somebody is going to be an ass.
Yeah.
And you don't engage them. I mean, so, and you mentioned New Orleans. New Orleans is a very passionate fan base.
For sure.
Very passionate. And when you go into their stadium, like I said, when the Philly sports guy, in theory, got started in New Orleans.
Okay.
Both originally and when I finally got recognized. You know what I mean? So, and I've had people come up to me and like be screaming in my face and doing
Sure.
their thing and you got to know sometimes that sometimes it's fun to engage.
Sure.
Sometimes you got to know, like I can read the person, be like, not
Yeah.
engaging with you.
It's gonna
Yeah.
go bad
I'm gonna
real
just
soon.
keep on
Yeah.
walking.
Yeah.
Yeah. When somebody starts to curse at me from
Sure.
afar, I've won because that means they're paying more attention to me than they are the game,
Sure.
and
Oh,
that means I've won.
absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
and it'll only get worse from there. Like that is definitely one of
Exactly.
those where you don't engage. 'Cause, I mean, you can run into that at every stadium, and
Yeah, absolutely.
usually
One of the things
that's
I love about New Orleans, I actually went to a game there. It was the New Orleans versus the Colts. I only went there because my friend was from New Orleans, and so I went there with him and to hang out, whatever. But what I noticed as we were going to the city of New Orleans before the game is on everybody's, I guess their fences or whatever, their gates or whatever. They had like rag dolls of the Colts being hung. Like literally, it's like a Colts doll being hung on there, and you see it all over New Orleans. All these little Colts dolls, with the noose around it, being hung on the gate. And I'm like, oh, this is a town that knows how to party. It's interesting, but really, they are very, very passionate about that. And of course, I think some of it was a little bit of
it
voodoo
also
in there
goes
too.
with
Though.
the voodoo.
Yeah,
Also
that's
goes
Yeah.
with the voodoo.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of voodoo that goes on in that. Trust me, that's one thing about New Orleans. You'll see a lot of crazy stuff. I will be honest with you, but I thought it was there. I was telling my wife, I was like, "Look at this! They got dudes hanging up." But then we went into something like, "Yeah, that's what we do here." So okay, we're fine.
Yeah,
Passionate fan
we
base.
hang up voodoo dolls and we drink a lot.
A lot.
So,
And they eat beignets, which is the reason why I think Zion Williamson is horrible because I think he's eating one too many beignets.
that could very well be. But, all that being said, but that's also the reason why I don't curse. I don't curse at people. I don't curse on my thing. Now I know how to curse. Trust me, I was a Navy guy. You learn how to pass the salt.
Oh, Pags was Navy? Pags, you were Navy?
Squid.
I was a squid
shellback.
too for 10. I was a squid for 10 years. I was a radioman and an HT.
So I was an electrician's
for the
mate that
spectrum.
cross-rated to IC. Electrician that cross-rated to IC on an LSD, a tripping good ship. So USS Portland.
Oh, man. I was down there on the Blue Ridge in Yokosuka for the most part, and then a couple of minesweepers over in Iraq. But yeah, or actually Bahrain before Iraq. Yeah. Good time.
Yeah, that's been
I think there's a reason why I like Pags. He's a former Navy guy. Okay, all right.
Exactly. The squids stick together.
Damn right.
But I also, like I said, but that's the reason why I don't curse. Because you can't, the moment that you curse at somebody, the conversation changes.
It does. It's over. They've won.
Yeah, and that's why it's like I never need to. Plus, if there's somebody who's yelling F this and F that and F this and F that, I let like one or two slide. But if something comes out where everybody, I turn around, I'm like, yo, there's kids around. You know what I mean? If they come to try to say something back at me, immediately all of the other people who are happy that I said something are now going to come in and say something because that's not what they're
But
there
it also
for.
ruins your reputation but it ruins your reputation as a representative of the Eagles organization. Even though you know once you become Eagles sports fan, they associate with the Eagles. You want to have a good reputation. And I think if you were to curse Pags, it would just ruin your reputation as a super fan.
Sure.
Right. So, and that's why I don't. I mean, it's like, does one slip on occasion? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I will never do that. Like, it's just, it's
As long
part
as
of that.
because it's not the norm for you.
Right. It's
you know what I'm saying? It might be every once in a while, but that's a human being. But as long as it's not the norm, you're fine. I mean, I don't see the issue with that.
It's also different if it's in the context of you're like, you're saying something about your team or whatever versus, directly to the person. Because, I mean, that's received very differently.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't, like, when somebody wants to curse at me, Like, I don't curse at people. So if somebody wants to curse at me, I'm going to give them my full attention and let them know that I don't like that they cursed at me.
Sure.
And that at that point, just that interaction usually stops any further interaction
Yeah.
because, like I said, I don't get angry. I look at anger as a weakness. Now, does that mean I don't get angry? No, absolutely. I get angry all the time. But
Hey,
but I'm
Pags,
not angry at people.
but being a military guy, Pags, do you ever like curse people phonetically? Like, do you ever like just phonetically spell your words? just to kind of like throw them off their game? Because if you got to literally mentally think about that, that gives me time to think about 4 other good comments.
Yeah, like, oh, really, you asshole?
It says Sierra Hotel India Tango Hotel Echo Alpha Delta. He spelled shithead. Wow.
Oh, that would be hilarious. That'd be hilarious.
I just think it's awesome when you can phonetically spell curse words and people are like,
or you know what? Maybe the big thing in the NFL this year was the sign language, so you could just.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the thing is that plenty of people know certain signs.
But but again, we're making a joke of this, but it's not funny when somebody gets shot and killed. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
No, it really isn't. It really, and I don't know. I'm just saying, as a society, I don't know how me want to kill someone. Like, what gets me to that level of number one, want to end a life. Number two, because I ended a life, now I got to go to jail forever. Like, is it really that serious?
No.
I mean, damn, there's a whole other season. Let's go. What the next year?
Said,
what are we doing?
They are not your mother. The teams are not your mother. You're not defending their honor. They could care less whether you come or go.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not getting direct deposits from the team, so that's the thing that gets me is it's you don't actually have any tie to the team. They don't even know who you are 99% of the time. There might be a couple of fans that they know who they are, but outside of that, like nobody has a clue. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, and most of the time, there's the next week. Like, what are we even doing?
Right, exactly. And listen, I root for my team the same way when they were 6-10, or 5-11, or when they're 11-5. You know what I mean? So it's like you know how ridiculous I sounded when I would go to Flyers games and we stunk out loud, and I'd go and do my video. Wake up, Philadelphia, and let me, it's like it sounds so ridiculous because I'm talking about how we're going to send the Rangers back up the turnpike with a big L, and they are going to crush us.
Yeah.
And I know it's coming, but I'm going to do the same thing over and over again. Because that's what I do. I'm rooting for my team. I'm not hating on your team unless you're a Cowboys fan or a Penguins fan. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a Penguins, I'm hating on the Penguins too. Cowboys, Penguins, I look at them the same way.
I do want to say this. I learned one thing in counseling, and love and hate are the same emotion. They're just at opposite ends of the spectrum. The only one emotion that's different between the two of them is indifference, which is neither here nor there. You never want to be indifference. You always want to be hated or loved. Because if I'm hated, I just know Pag loves me that much more.
So wait, I got a clarification question here. How long were you in therapy, and why did you only learn one thing?
He doesn't even have to respond to that.
No.
He's like, you got me.
When I came back from my last deployment in Afghanistan, my wife said, "You're choking me out. Go get therapy. You're doing something in your dreams that isn't quite normal." And I went and got therapy. And that was in 2013. And I've been in therapy ever since. And apparently it's working because the medication, primo. And I ain't got to pay for it. And she's a lot happier. So, my therapy, but no, I've been in therapy for a hot minute.
So therapy,
I'm a veteran of therapy.
Therapy taught you to loosen your grip a little bit. So
a little bit. No, but hey, I do want to do a shameless plug. If there's a veteran out there that's going through issues, please go get therapy. It is worth $1,000 that they're going to pay for. So go get your therapy.
Yeah, or if you don't even know who to talk to, you can come talk to me. Come talk to Jay. Listen, there's I can talk about this for hours here. That 22 veterans a day commit suicide because of either PTSD or feelings because of what they've seen or lost friends that they've lost in battle and things like that. It's suicide is never the right answer. So it's funny that we're talking about this right now, but it's not funny. It's not a funny situation. So
no, for sure.
If you need somebody to talk to, feel free to reach out to me. Even like I said,
or me.
I can at least steer you into the right direction. And be somebody that's non-judgmental because like I said, it's what you've been through. I haven't walked the mile in your shoes, so what you've got to say,
you just walked a mile in different shoes,
right?
Yeah.
So, but for anybody out there or if you know somebody who's having a hard time, difficult time, somebody who's always saying he's fine but isn't like he used to be. Definitely, it's somebody that you should get to have him talk to someone because ultimately they're fighting battles that you'll never know.
Yep.
So.
Yeah,
amen, brother. Amen.
I think we've all had friends that have gone that. We've lost friends that have gone that way. So it's a very real thing. Even if you're not a veteran, like if you're struggling, talk to somebody.
Yeah, mental health, and it's everywhere. We're talking. We hear about it in sports all the time. And
Ben Simmons was, I guess, one of the precursors of mental health. I mean, look, I know we can kind of poke a lot of fun at Ben Simmons, but I do believe, and I will never poke fun at mental health. I do think that there is some mental health issues with that young man, and that's something that I hope that he's honestly continuing his treatment with because it is in sports. Okay, go back to Ricky Williams. You don't think Ricky Williams was having issues with mental health? He'll tell you he had mental health issues. There's a lot of athletes out there that have mental health. What was that guy? Love? The center for the Cavaliers. Kevin Love. Kevin Love is a huge mental health guy. He has foundations out there that help with mental health. So mental health is all over the place. Look at Simone Biles. She left the Olympics because of mental health.
Sure. Well, and it's something that I credit Jay Glazer with a ton. Right? He is a huge advocate for mental health, and he is very open about the fact that he struggles with depression and has those issues. Right? He talks very publicly about it, and so it's shout out to Jay Glazer for doing that. Because that's huge,
and it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Absolutely.
I tell you, I mean, I have certain situations like after football season's over and before baseball season begins. There's always challenges. It's like when you're high so long, trying to come down is so difficult that it takes a mental toll. This is work. This is hard work. Going to all these games and screwing on the smile. There are times that I don't feel like going to the games, but I go and I've got to screw on the smile and I got to take the pictures because the people want that. They don't want, hey, what are you miserable about? They don't care. They don't care about that.
No,
they want the Philly sports
guy.
They want
the guy, the persona.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not the easiest.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So,
they want that game day experience, regardless of where you're at.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And that's a challenge sometimes. Like I said, after the Super Bowl last year till the end of March, it was tough because it's like, okay, I had the World Series and then I had the Super Bowl and then straight down to, for 2 months until baseball started back up again.
Right.
And you're just like, what am I doing? Like,
and Pags and Bo, as an athlete that I know you probably know this more than either one of us. From that perspective, you can't tell me that these athletes, these top tier athletes, that the pressures that they go through, the amount of pressure that's put upon, you can't tell me that some of them guys don't got some damn mental health issues going on in there. You may not know about it. We may not know about it, but you can't tell me that them dudes don't got some mental health stuff, dealing with the pressures of their job, dealing with the pressures of society, dealing with the pressures, of their families. dealing with all the other pressure they got to deal with day-to-day life. You can't tell me that those dudes themselves don't have their own demons that they're dealing with while they're playing sports.
No, they definitely do. And one of the things that people don't realize that is such a weird thing when you're playing is to your point, Pags, was, you know, in between sports, you're just like, oh man, such a low. That's really true when you're playing, right? Because everything you do is so regimented about doing the thing, right? And then, you know, it's not like it's a series, right? Like once you hit the playoffs, it's one and done. Or even if you win it all, like the next day, it's over. Like that's it. Pack up your crap and go home. Like everything you've been doing for the last 6+ months, where you are, everything about you is scheduled beyond belief.
Right.
And then the end of the season comes.
And go, hard stop.
Yeah, there's nothing else, right? It's just like, okay, there's the door, get out the building. Like you're just like, man, like everything I've been doing has been regimented for, you know, 14 hours a day for the last 6, 8 months, and now it's just like, bye, and you're just like, wow, okay, so you actually just kind of feel, you know, some kind of way, because you're just like, man, I'm not even quite sure what I'm supposed to do at the moment. And I mean, it's not like you were being told what to do per se. I mean, you were still free reining your time to some degree, but
absolutely.
But at the same time, now it's just like you don't have that goal, right? Which is why you end up seeing guys in the NFL that end up showing up out of shape or not ready to go and stuff like that. It's because they don't have that scheduled thing that keeps them on track. It's just kind of like, okay, season's over, bye. And you're like,
yeah.
Weird.
I think one of the biggest cases of mental health was Demetrius Underwood. Anybody remember Demetrius Underwood? He started out with Minnesota on the defensive side of the ball. Then Dallas took him on. But he was a severe head case. I mean, this guy was battling demons on the psychotic side that had him naked, running down the streets and getting in trouble. I mean, this guy was incredibly talented. He was probably one of the most talented defensive guys out there. But because of his mental health demons, it ruined his career and it kept him from, you know, reaching his potential. And I got to be honest with you, if I was an athlete, it would be hard for me to deal with on a mental health side, especially on the depression side, would be as if I was like a Nick Chubb, which just went through that injury he went through, which basically shattered everything in his leg, and him wondering, can I come back from this and be the same Nick Chubb I was before, or will I now be, you know, and all the stuff that he's going to have to go through with rehab, or an Alex Smith that went through, you know, the Theismann injury back in the day, you know, and all the stuff that he had to come back through to even get onto the field was amazing. Like the thing that those kinds of athletes go through with those kinds of injuries and the mental health side of it, it's got to be incredibly crazy.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Rehab's a grind no matter what. And when you're an athlete and you got to do it, when you're so used to being able to do close to superhuman type of things, and now you're having a hard time moving body weight. It's that is definitely a mentally draining thing. I remember tearing a hamstring, and you know, it was hard to move the bike without the band being tight, right? Like you're just freewheeling it, and it hurt to do the motion. You're just like, man, this is like, how am I ever going to do a leg press again, let alone, you know, run? Right. I mean, those are the thoughts that creep in your head when you start. Now, obviously, it gets better over time and, you know, you progress, you get healthy again, whatever. But when it first starts, you know, you do get down about it because you're just like, man, is this ever going to be right again?
Right.
Well, I tell you, we may have to readdress this again. Obviously, we went off on a tangent here towards the end of the show, and it went, and it sounds like we ain't done talking about it yet either. So it's one of these things that maybe we will have to revisit again, probably after the Super Bowl. But thank you for everybody who stuck with us for our 2 hours. Yeah, all the comments and everything. We'll be back tomorrow. All three of us, where we were going to make our picks, and everybody will find out that the Dallas Cowboys are going to lose to the Green Bay Packers. We're all going to pick against Dallas. But anyways.
Be sure to hang out in the next hour, too. I'm actually doing my pick 'em in the next hour block.
So absolutely stay tuned to listen to Bo. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.